Top 10. You go first.
Whoa. Okay. It's in no order.
Yeah.
No particular order.
No particular.
I will say the Earthquaker Devices Rainbow Machine.
All right.
I'm gonna say the Digitech Whammy. I'm going to say the Line 6 FM4.
It's amazing.
I mean, I guess I'm gonna say the Line 6 DL4, whatevs. I'm going to say the Red Panda Context. Okay, what, I guess I should keep going, hold on.
That's
the Boss CE2
Yeah.
chorus. The Boss DD question mark, I think it's the DD5.
Delay.
Delay. I will say I'll say a Mantic Flex. Okay, so I'm at 8. Oh my gosh, that's hard. Hold on. I'll put the Digitech Space Station.
All right.
And more. I mean, this is hard. I'm trying to think of what's on my pedal board right now. I'm gonna say for my 9th or my 10th favorite pedal right now. It's not of all time. That's the thing. I want to clarify that. For my 10th pedal, I'm just gonna say I'll say the Maris Autobit.
Nice. Okay, here I go. Meatbox from DoD. Boss CS2. Rainbow Machine. Hummingbird. Grand Orbiter. Those are Earthquaker pedals.
Yeah.
So that's already at 5. My Subtech Fuzz. Electro-Harmonics. Vintage microsynth. Not a new one. Maestro Ring Modulator. Okay, so I have 2 left. I gotta make them count. God, I really like the MXR the Submachine, so I'll put that in there. That's 9. And for 10, I mean, I should put the DL4, but I'm not. I like that little mini wah, the little mini white bass wah.
Well, you also didn't say the multiplay. You usually like the multiplay.
All right, take the wah away.
All
the
right.
Digitech multiplay.
This is also if I were to give a proper top 10, I would sit there and think about it for a really long time. This is just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So that's not a top 10. That's 10 of my favorite pedals.
Yeah.
Right now.
Not top 10.
Yeah.
10 of my favorites that I can think of with 2 cameras pointed at me.
All right. Here comes the next. The coolest gear that
Clarify
you have.
that, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah. The coolest gear that you have reviewed lately.
Well, just at GuitCon, we saw the new TC Electronic Quintessence. I don't know how you say that.
Quintessence.
Quintessence. I don't know. Quintessence.
Yes.
Quintessence. There's a Squeeze song called Quintessence,
Nice.
and they phrase it, and it's like quintessence, and it makes me think of the word in a
I
weird
didn't
way.
even know you just pulled a Squeeze song.
I love Squeeze.
I saw Squeeze. I used to love the shit out of Squeeze.
What era? Did you see them in the good era? Like
I saw
80s?
them. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Saw him pulling muscles out of the show, or pulling muscle from the show.
Yeah, that's a crazy song. So the TC Electronic have a new intelligent pitch shifter, which you can do their tone print with and dig into the app and plug it into a computer and do all kinds of crazy edits. So we have not reviewed that. We also don't. Well, whatever. It's a semantics thing, but it's not a review. It's just it's a new thing that we like to do videos.
Bring attention.
We just like to check out new stuff, but that's a new thing that I checked out just this week that I thought was really cool.
I really like this Banana Effects from Japan, Osaka, Japan. It's a little synthesizer pedal this big. It's awesome. I mean, anything. If you're a bass player, keyboard player, guitar player, that pedal is amazing. I mean, he nailed it in every way. There's all these little switchable synths. It's it's for me, it's way more useful than even the Electro-Harmonix Synth 9 pedal, whatever it is called. I mean, it sounds better, it's smaller, it tracks better, it's awesome. So yeah, that pedal.
All right. The next one. The most precious music gear that you own.
Most precious.
Yeah.
I will say my 1970 Fender Precision fretless for sure. I could do anything with that, and effects could go in and out. It doesn't matter. Like I have to have that. So yeah, that's my precious.
I'm sorry to say that I don't have any vintage gear. I have like, because then I guess I associate precious with old and like, you know, important, and I don't have any. I have like an old. I think the oldest thing I have is I have a Roland JC60, which I think is like I think it's a 70s amp, maybe like a late 70s, but I don't care about it.
Right.
So if I had something that's precious, like if I had to save something from a fire, dude, I don't know.
Space Station?
I mean, maybe my blue Squire Supersonic guitar, just because it's like, oh yeah, it's my kind of like my first favorite guitar that I ever connected with, but...
That's cool. I mean, I think that's valid.
I mean, it's just not precious. You can get one on Reverb.com.
Yeah,
right
but
now,
it's. I mean, I don't have my first bass that I ever purchased with my own money, which is my Yamaha BB800, because some psycho girlfriend kept it because she played bass and she won't give it back, and it's my first bass.
I don't have my first guitar.
I wish I had it, I should say, so it would be precious. But why? Where's your first guitar?
And I gave it to my best friend when I was like 11 years old.
That's cool.
So, but I'd say my Squire Supersonic is my most treasured piece of gear, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though it's like not very important.
Do you have any favorite amp for pedals, like platform?
For pedals,
yeah.
The greatest guitar amp for pedals is the Roland Jazz Chorus.
Of course.
Like,
and you just 5.
I have a whole bunch of them. Yeah, I have several, and they don't color the tone of, so you get to actually hear what the pedal is like designed to sound like. And I usually run my JC120, or right now I'm using a JC44 stereo with a PV6505 combo amp. And what's funny is like I've tried so many different guitar amp combinations with the JC, and like every other amp I've tried cannot take the pedal sounds. It's so weird.
No,
like, it garbles up. I tried other guitar amps and like, oh, you send the synth with this like the FM4 synth sound with like a reverb and like then I loop that and then I'm adding stuff on top of it, and it's crystal clear out of a JC and the PV. But then when you get any other amp combination in there, it just turns into a garbled mess. So for some reason, those two amps have worked very well for me.
I mean, I think for me, like I started using Ampeg, and so Ampeg was, it's a tube amp, and it sounds great, distorts great, and I was in love with it. But then I couldn't tour with it because it was too heavy, so then back in the 90s, I was using a GK 800 head, and it's a solid state head. And I noticed that at that time, I go, wow, the distortion has way more quicker response, because the tube takes the kind of like your response and it throws it through the tubes and then it shoots it out. So it's kind of almost like at least in your mind, it almost feels like it's like a delayed response. And then when I got to the Gallon-Kruger, when I cracked that pick on the string, it's instantaneous into the GK, into the speaker. So, and I just think that the distortion sounded more consistent and controllable in a solid state head. So that now leads to, I play these Ampeg PF800 heads that are solid state, and that's what I think sounds better with effects, because tube amps color it too much. I like tube amps for straight bass into the amp, because I can get a sound that I really am familiar with, but with pedals, solid state amps for sure. And I like the Ampeg PF800 heads.
Cool. Do you have any pedals combo favorite pedal combination?
That gets you like a sound that you like?
Yeah.
The helicopters. The helicopter jam.
Well, you could say yours. I can't.
All right, Nick's gonna think on him, and I always did this thing in Mark Volta in 2003. Like one of the first jams I ever did with John, the drummer, was the helicopter jam, which is a tremolo with a fuzz in front of it. So when you have that much gain in front of a tremolo and you square wave tremolo that chops really hard, it just has this helicopter pulsing sound. So it's like and it gives you very distinctive time. And so then the drummer can play to it. And John, when I was in Mars Volta, I was just messing around with that sound, and John goes, "Whoa, what's that? I want to play to that." And so the entire time John was in the band, we did a thing called what we called the helicopter jam. On their set list, it would say helicopter jam. And it came from me just throwing a fuzz through a sawtooth, choppy tremolo, and that's how we got the sound. So that's probably signature.
Mine is probably the using any sort of synth pedal with going into the Rainbow Machine, because the Rainbow Machine just kind of like spreads it out so hard when you have it tuned kind of like dead center unison, but just maybe like a hair off, and it's just like such a wide, like kind of fat chorus sound. So kind of anything that is like I guess specifically like a low kind of like bass heavy like synth going through that is like probably one of my favorite sounds.
Cool. And what kind of music are you currently listening to? Albums, bands, whatever?
Okay. What am I currently listening to? I wonder if I could look at my spot.
I can tell you for me easily. So I listen to this girl, Jessie Lanza. She's from Canada, I think the Toronto area. I love her. Absolutely obsessed with her. And then I've been listening to the new Horrors record, The Horrors. I love The Horrors. I've loved every record they've ever made. The new one's really good. It's growing on me. At first I was like, well, but now I'm like, I really listen to it a lot. And I'll give you a third one. I listen to Vince Staples, the rapper. I love his records. So those are three pretty different records, but are pretty cool. Not that Nick's has to be that diverse.
Man, I can't really think of.
Cornelius, you were telling me.
Yeah, but like I like, but that came out a few months ago. I haven't listened to it a whole bunch, but I do like Cornelius a lot. You're talking about that. I mean, this morning I was watching tons of Pantera videos, live Pantera videos. Love Pantera, and then like this is dumb, but there's this punk band, a '90s skate punk band called Lagwagon that I've always liked, and I drove to Seattle and back down last month, and I hadn't listened to Lagwagon in a really long time, so I just downloaded Spotify, and so I was listening to Lagwagon. Oh, also, this is funny. I checked out the first Eminem record the other day. Do you know that record at all?
No.
There's like it's long, and I don't listen to like rap records really, so like, you know, rap records are like 23 songs or something like that. Right. And there's probably like, and I listened to that record a lot in high school. It was the only like rap thing I was really into. And there's really weird, cool production on that record. And not on the record, on like 6 songs. I mean, maybe that's the whole record. It's whatever, Dr. Dre or something.
Mike Elizondo.
What? What's
yeah,
that?
He pretty much produced it for Dr. Dre, and he is a bass player, but he's now like, I think he's like the president of Warner Brothers or something.
Whoa.
But he was a bass player who played on Fiona Apple Records, and he kind of transferred all that into like that side of the industry. So he was Dr. Dre's bass player on 2001 Eminem. He wasn't on the Chronic.
There's good. I was driving through Pasadena the other day, listening to the Eminem record, and I'm like skipping because I'm like, no, that song sucks, that song sucks, that song's awesome. And there are like really cool bass lines.
That's Mike Elizondo.
Wow.
I gave him. He was a Racer X fan, and I gave him a lesson when I lived in East LA.
That's crazy.
And that's how I know him. I have his phone number because of I gave him a lesson when he was a Racer X fan.
So the first Eminem record has like probably 6 songs that I could listen to on repeat that I'm like, wow.
Right. The next question, there's more to. The one piece of gear that you regret selling the most?
Oh, jeez. There's so many for me, tons. Because it's the nature of the musician. You think you don't have any use for it, and then you sell it because you want to buy other things that you think you need to have. and then you eventually come back around and say, wow, I should have never sold that. I mean, one of my basses that I toured with in Mars Volta was very heavy, and the neck was very big, but it sounded amazing, and I should have kept it just for recording and never toured with it again, but it did really mess up my shoulder. But I sold it to a friend. He sold it to a collector who then sold it to the Hard Rock Cafe in the United States. So it's on some wall at a Hard Rock Cafe, and people don't know who the fuck I am, and it's just plastered there, and they have no idea that it's one of the best sounding Fender Precisions ever. So it was a 1973 Fender Precision, and it's sitting on some fucking wall in the car.
See, I don't sell all the stuff that I've sold over the years is not like non-important pieces. Because I'm like a pack rat about stuff.
Right.
So I pretty much have all my important things, but so my second guitar ever that I bought out of the newspaper, a newspaper ad in Sacramento, was like a Mexican Telecaster, and probably when I was like 18, I traded it to a friend, my friend Pat, he engineered some Taramellis records, and he's a close bud of ours, an ally. And I was like, this Telecaster, this is dumb. And he had a no-name brand Explorer, and there was like tons of switches on it. Right. I remember it was just weird. It was like an awful finish, and it was like. But for some reason, when I was 18, I'm like, that's cool, man. That's like a weird... And it's not like I was into metal, but I just thought it was like a weird guitar.
Well, Hatfield played it.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like... It was a weird, like, gray, like, flame top thing or something, and just an off-brand. I was like, let's trade. And so he traded me for that. And then probably like 3 years later... I felt so dumb because I never touched the Explorer, and then at that point I realized like, oh wait, the Telecaster is like a really cool guitar, you know? And so I like went back to him, you know, with my tail between my legs, and was like, hey dude, what do you think about retrading for that? Because like, you know, man, I don't care about this Explorer. And he traded it back to me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so, and that was probably when I was 21 that he gave it back to me. And then that was a main guitar that the Tele, I toured with it. So if like the Taramellos around maybe like 2009, 2010, that was like my main guitar. Yeah, and then I just found it in like recently at storage or my parents' house or something, and I pulled it back out. But yeah, it's a cool guitar. It's a good one. So I regretted that, and then I was able to get it back.
Well, I had one more because it's equally as bad. In the 90s, I was really close friends with Tim Comerford from Rage Against the Machine. And Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam had this fretless, wall fretless. So walls are very collectible. And especially that era, because the guy who created Wall was still alive. So Jeff Ament buys this fretless wall bass, and he gave it to Tim Comerford from Rage Against the Machine. And then Tim Comerford gave it to me, and then I had it, and I actually put it on one recording, and it sounds great. It's fretless, 2 pickup, sounded awesome. I got broke, I couldn't pay my rent, and I sold it for $800. And so there's a bass out there that was owned by Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam, Tim Comerford from Rage Against the Machine, and me, well, it was whoever, but for those two dudes, and some guy bought it from me for $800, and I wasn't famous at all, so whoever bought it off me didn't know where this bass came from. I think the only way is if he registered it with the Wall, because Wall's really good at like cataloging who owns what. Maybe if that guy put it on the register, it would have shown that Jeff Ament owned it at one time, but I mean, that bass would be worth 40, 50 grand or something maybe, to like a Hard Rock. Otherwise it'd be worth like 20, 25 grand. Yeah, because Jeff Ament owned it. Those walls go for anywhere from 5 to 10 grand right now. Jonas Hellborg's wall bass, the two that he owns, would probably sell for 10, 15 grand. Yeah.
Crazy.
So Jeff Ament and Tim Comerford owned, I bet you could get 20 grand for it. I bet. So yeah, so that's
the story.
That's pretty bad.
Oh man. And the last one.
Okay.
Advice or message for pedal nerds.
The what?
Advice
Oh.
for pedal peeps.
You go first.
Advice for pedal people. I would not, because we're doing a YouTube video and we're here at GuitCon, which is a whole bunch of YouTubers hanging out, everyone in each other's face with cameras asking about certain things. And I guess maybe I would say that it's smart to just don't listen to, I like experimenting with pedals. I don't watch YouTube channels to see what a pedal can do. I know that's a very common thing, and sometimes, maybe if I'm having trouble with how a certain function works on a pedal, I will cross-reference a YouTube video. If it's something very confusing that I just cannot figure out, which is rare, I think, because we don't do crazy digital stuff all that often, and I don't like to read manuals. So sometimes, I'd go to reference a YouTube video, but I would say just kind of the way that we do it is just plug it in and mess around with it and have fun and see what you get out of it, as opposed to having someone tell you what it's supposed to do or what you can get out of it. That's literally how I do it.
Yeah.
Get a pedal, okay, plug it in. So when we were doing the tour thing, Tor from TC Electronic, I was doing a tone print for him on that Quintessence pedal, and I made my sound out of it, and he was like, "Whoa, that was not what I was imagining this pedal doing when I was designing it." And so it's that's crazy to just think about, even the guy that made the pedal wouldn't have told you to do it this way. So if you just go to the source of these things, or YouTube videos, or other people that are messing with this, they might kind of cloud your creative path with it by telling you how to do it, as opposed to just discovering. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd say probably I would keep it simple, so to speak, but I'd say that come in knowing how to get really good sounds simply, and don't do too many pedals. I see a lot of these kids, and they send me photos of their pedal boards, and I have an idea that there's probably some of them that know how to really manage all that, but I think there's probably some that don't. And I think just go and come into a situation knowing what you're going to present and have it dialed, because the worst thing you can do is give them a sound, and then the band, or if you're playing with somebody and they look and they go, "Whoa, what the hell is that?" and you don't know how to wrangle it in, then they're going to always be like, "I don't want you to bring pedals to the gig," or whatever. So just go in there knowing your stuff, and you know how to put it out there so it sounds good in whatever you're doing. But I've done this before where I hit something and I didn't know how to wrangle it in, and they were just like, "Take that pedal, I don't want that pedal on," and the pedal was actually cool, but I didn't really know how to work it. So I think it was the Red Panda particle, and the first time I used it in a situation, it was just get that pedal out of here, because you don't know how, they didn't say because you don't know how to use it, but it was because I didn't know how to use it. I didn't spend enough time with it, and I was like, fuck, I can't get it to do what I was doing earlier. And so I just recommend just keep it simple, and if you don't really know something, just leave it off your pedal board, because you just have to rely on your playing or whatever. So.
And that's funny coming from you, because you're the guy that was surrounded by 4 pedal boards.
But that particle threw me through a loop, man. I was like, wait, what happened to that thing? And I had the settings right, and I was just it was unpredictable. And even to this day, I still don't know how I did this, but my friend Matt and I were recording, and the particle was at the end of the chain, and I had all this weird sound going into it. And so I had it going on, and then we were playing and recording, cool, and then I shut everything off except for the particle. And then I went and played bass, and when it was just the particle on, and the entire sound chain that I created that was what was coming out. But all my pedals were off.
Because the particle saves all of it.
So it's safe. It almost modeled the sound that I threw in there.
When the particle feedback is turned up, and or you have it on a loop, how it'll grab a section of it and fuck it up, that it stores it into it until you
But I'm telling you, I started playing and my sound was there, but all my pedals were off. It grabbed my sound. Like it was almost like it modeled my sound. And we were like, I kept looking at Matt, the engineer, and I'm going, dude, all my pedals are off, except for that one. And look, and I started playing all the stuff, and he goes, whoa. He goes, so then it took a particle of your sound and it printed it. And I'm like, I can do that? And we were both like going, what? And he's an engineer. He's like he's a drummer, but he's a great engineer. And we were both like, how is this happening? We might even have video of it.
I mean, that's my only guess, is that you weren't actually playing the sounds were just like looped inside there, and it was just like,
oh, I see what you mean. So I was playing the same riff, and it was in there. Is that what you mean? Like it almost sampled it?
yes, because the particle holds on to this stuff. It's the kind of thing where, like, I'm trying to think of another pedal that does that. Like, well, just pretend that you had played a bunch of stuff into a DL4 and sampled all your sounds,
right.
And then like you turn everything off and then you turn the DL4 on and it's still going because
right.
it saves it, right? Until you erase it. That would be my only guess, you know.
All right. Well, fuck, who knows? All right. Thank you. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's
all right. Pedal
pretty much
fusion.
cool.